So last class we are discussing about plane strain problems. So all the planes in plane strain problem, the strains epsilon x, epsilon y, and gamma xy are non-zero, and out of plane, that is epsilon z is 0, and there is no distortion in the z direction. We also learnt about the how to draw the Mohr circle for plane strain, and how to relate the strains in one coordinate system to strains in another coordinate system, to a rotated coordinate system. So after that, we solved some examples. We solved an example, and so in today's class, we'll discuss about 3D analysis of strain. So so this is similar to 3D analysis of stress. So we have identified three principal axes: sigma A, sigma B, and sigma C for the stress element. So on all the faces, only normal stresses are acting, and there are no shear stress acting on any of the face. So we can then what we did was we can look at this 3D stress element from C axis, and then we can rotate about this element about the C axis. So we'll get one more circle with sigma A and sigma B as the principal stresses, or we can look from the A axis and rotate the stress element about the A axis. So we will get another more circle in terms of with sigma B and sigma C as the principal stresses. Or you can look from the top, that is from the B axis, and we can get another more circle with the principal stresses as we can rotate it about B axis, and we can get another more circle with sigma and sigma C as the principal stresses there. So for this state of stress, there is a corresponding state of strain, and what will happen is, because of this normal strains, this edge will extend in the A direction by epsilon A. So the strain in the A direction is epsilon A. Similarly, because of this stress, there will be some strain produced, and because of this stress, there will be some strain produced. Actually, we will have to use the Hooke's law. So when you calculate epsilon A, it will be sigma A by E minus nu sigma B by E and minus nu sigma C by E. So in that way fashion, we get the epsilon A. Similarly, if you want to calculate epsilon B, we have to use the Hooke's law. Epsilon B is equal to sigma B by E minus nu sigma A by E minus nu sigma C by E. So for the C direction also, we can apply the same Hooke's law there. So this is the resulting strains. Initially, this is a cube of side length side 1, and because of the strains, the length of the cube has increased. So along A direction, it is 1 plus epsilon A. So the increase is given as epsilon A times the undeformed length. So undeformed length is 1. So it will be epsilon A times 1, which will be epsilon A. So the new length is 1 plus epsilon A, and here the height is 1 plus epsilon B, and the width is 1 plus epsilon C. So these are the principal axis. So A, B, C are the principal axis, and the strains epsilon A, epsilon B, and epsilon C are the principal strains. So what we can do, we can look at this stress element from the C axis, and then we can rotate this element about the C axis. So we will get a rotated coordinate system here. So suppose we have this A and B axis, which are the principal axis. Now we are rotating it by a small amount, and we get the new coordinate x and y, and C coordinate will remain same, it will not change. So for the new coordinate system, suppose if a cube is oriented along x axis and y axis and C axis, so the cube's length is say it is 1 unit. So because of this deformation, the length of the cube will increase by 1 plus epsilon x, 1 plus epsilon epsilon. This is what 1 plus epsilon y. Actually, this is y. I wrote it z. 1 plus epsilon y and 1 plus epsilon c. And not only that, there will be some distortion produced in the element. So there will be a change in angle. So this change in angle is given by gamma xy, that is a shear strain. So initially the angle is pi by 2, and now it will be pi by 2 plus gamma xy. So here what we can do, we can draw the Morse circle for the strains due to the rotation about c axis. So here we are drawing the Morse circle for for transformation of strain in 3D principal axis. So let's assume the epsilon c value is less than epsilon b value, and which is less than epsilon a value. So when you rotate the stress element about the c axis, we will be working only with these principal strains epsilon a and epsilon b. So we'll get this circle with maximum principal strain A and minimum principal strain B, and this is the Morse circle, which will represent all the strains due to the rotations. In the along c direction, there will be no change in the strain. It will remain epsilon c, and we can get the maximum shear strain, which is equal to the diameter of this AB. Okay, so this is gamma max by 2, and that gamma max by 2 is radius, and 2 times gamma max will be the diameter. So epsilon A minus epsilon B will be the maximum shear strain for rotation about the c axis. Similarly, what we can do, we can rotate the system about the a axis, and we can get this Morse circle. So the circle passing through points B and C, we get this Morse circle, and here epsilon b is greater than epsilon c, so epsilon b will be the maximum principal strain and epsilon c will be the minimum principal strain, and we get the corresponding shear strain, which is maximum shear strain, which is epsilon b minus epsilon c. And we can draw a Morse circle by rotating about the b axis, and then we'll get epsilon a and epsilon c as the principal strains, and we get now a bigger circle, and this bigger circle will have the maximum shear strain. So that gamma max by 2 will be equal to the radius, and gamma max will be equal to the diameter. So the maximum shear strain will be epsilon max minus epsilon minimum. So this is what we have, and you note that this is a out of plane shear strain. So AB will be the in plane shear strain, and AC the strain corresponding to shear strain corresponding to AC will be the out of plane. Okay, so there will be rotation in the z direction, I think. Yeah, any element which is lying on the xz plane will get rotated by some amount, and that maximum rotation that rotation corresponds to the shear strain, and we'll get the maximum rotation for element in the xz plane or xc plane. Okay, so this is regarding Morse circle for principal strains. Now we can apply this concept to the plane strain. So in plane strain, we already know that the strains in the in-plane strains are non-zero. So epsilon x, epsilon y, and gamma xy are non-zero, and epsilon z is 0, and the shear strains gamma gx and gamma gy are 0. So what we can do is, on the z phase, that is for the z axis, epsilon z is 0. So and shear strains are 0. That means epsilon c corresponds to the z axis. This is a principal strain. So g axis corresponds to the principal axis c. Okay. So what we can do, that means epsilon c is 0, and then we have this two conditions. First condition could be that epsilon a can be positive and epsilon b can be negative, and another condition is both epsilon a and epsilon b are positive, with epsilon a being the maximum principal strain. So we can analyze each of these conditions separately. So for this condition, epsilon b is negative, epsilon a is positive, we can draw a Morse circle. This Morse circle is indicated by that black line. So for this Morse circle, the maximum principal strain is epsilon a, which is lying on the positive epsilon theta axis, and minimum principal strain is epsilon b, which is lying on the negative epsilon theta axis. And we can draw Morse circle by rotating about b axis. So we will get this circle, which is passing through C and A, and we can draw a Mohr circle for rotation about the A axis. We'll get this circle which is passing through B and C. So the maximum shear strain is occurring for the AB circle, and that maximum shear strain value is equal to the diameter, that is the length of AB. So length of AB will be epsilon A minus epsilon B. If epsilon B is negative, then you can add them up. So epsilon of minus will become positive. So that will be the diameter AB. So and this maximum shear stress is acting in plane. For this case, where both strains are positive, or suppose you can have both strains negative also. So here we have both strains are positive, and epsilon is greater than epsilon B. Further, the Mohr circle for rotation about the C axis is this one, indicated by the black circle passing through A and B. And if you rotate the strain element about the, or if you rotate the xy, or here what will be yz about the x-axis, then you will get this Mohr circle. And if you rotate it about the y-axis, you'll get this bigger circle. So the maximum shear strain will be the diameter of AC. So epsilon C is 0, and epsilon A value we have. So the maximum shear strain will be AC value, which is simply epsilon A. Okay, so the maximum shear strain is epsilon A, and this maximum shear strain is occurring in the out of plane direction. So this is for the plane strain scenario. This is a Mohr circle for plane strain. Now we can draw a similar. We can do a similar exercise for by drawing the Mohr circle of strain for plane stress scenario. So in plane stress, what is happening is we have normal stresses sigma x, sigma y, and shear stress tau xy. All these stresses are acting in the in one plane. Okay, so out of plane, this in the this G phase, which is a front phase, and that away phase, there are no stresses acting there. So sigma z and tau xg, tau xy, tau yz all are 0. So for this plane strain case, we'll have corresponding principal stresses by rotating the z about rotating the stress element about the z axis. So if you rotate it, we can get the principal stresses sigma a and sigma b, and then the shear stress will go to 0 in the on the principal planes. So out of plane we have sigma z, and that value is 0. So we can say that we are now in a state of 3D plane. We are in a state of what is principal axis. Okay, so A, B, and Z are now the principal axis. With this information, we can now apply the Hooke's law and try to get the strains in the A direction, strains along B, and strains along Z direction. So Hooke's law will be epsilon A sigma A by E minus Poisson ratio nu times sigma V by E minus Poisson ratio nu times sigma C by E. So then we'll get epsilon B, that is the strain in the B direction, as minus nu sigma A by E plus sigma B by E minus nu sigma C by E, and epsilon C value, that is the strain in this Z direction, as minus nu sigma A by E minus nu sigma B by E minus, sorry, this is a correction here, this is plus plus sigma C. I made an error here. This is, please correct it, it is plus sigma C by E. That is a mistake. So for this case, sigma C is 0. So all these terms will go to 0. Okay, the third, the box terms here are going to 0. So we will be left with only the first two terms in each equation. What we can do, we can write the third equation as by taking minus nu by E out. So out of that common, and minus nu by E times sigma A plus sigma B. And we can add up these first two equations, epsilon A plus epsilon B. What will happen is you will have sigma A into 1 minus nu by E plus sigma B into 1 minus nu by E. So 1 minus nu by E we take common, and we get sum of epsilon A plus epsilon B as 1 minus nu by E sigma A plus sigma B. Now if you see here, sigma A plus sigma B terms are common for both on the right hand side for both these equations. So we can divide LHS by LHS, RHS by RHS, and we'll get epsilon A by epsilon plus epsilon A plus epsilon B, and minus nu by 1 minus nu, and then we can send epsilon A plus epsilon B to the right. So this is what we have. So epsilon C, that is a strain in the Z direction, is minus Poisson ratio by 1 minus Poisson ratio times epsilon A plus epsilon B. So if both strains are tensile, that means there is a elongation in both along A direction and along B direction, then in the C direction there will be a contraction. Okay, or if both strains are, say, a compression, that is, there is a shortening of along A direction, shortening along B direction, then there will be positive, that is the elongation in the Z direction. So this formula we have here. So let's have a scenario here that epsilon A and epsilon B both are exceeding epsilon C. So let's treat epsilon A and epsilon B also as a positive. So epsilon C will be negative. So for this case, we will draw the Mohr circle for the strains. So first thing is we'll draw the epsilon theta axis and gamma theta by 2 axis. Then we'll identify the points epsilon A, that is coordinate of A, which is epsilon A comma 0, coordinate of B, which is epsilon B comma 0. Both are lying on the positive epsilon theta axis, and epsilon C is negative, so we'll have it on the negative place and negative side, and it will be minus epsilon C, or you can say epsilon C comma 0. So the coordinate is epsilon C comma 0. So we can draw the Mohr circle. The green color one represents the in-plane stresses. So we are here in this, for the green circle, we are rotating about the z-axis. So we get this corresponding Mohr circle. And we can get the remaining two circles by rotating about this circle which is passing through B and C by rotating about A-axis, that is x-axis, and A-axis, and the bigger circle which is passing through A and C by rotating about the y-axis, or in this case the b-axis. So for that larger circle is obtained for the out of plane rotation. So the maximum shear strain is we are getting as equal to the diameter here. So it will be AC, that will be the maximum shear strain. So it will be what, epsilon A minus epsilon C. So it will be like 1 plus mu by 1 minus nu. Okay, so 1 plus mu by 1 minus nu will be epsilon by 1 minus nu plus mu times epsilon B by 1 minus nu. So that will be the maximum shear strain. So we will now implement this Mohr circle for 3D system in a example here. So we'll do this example. So what is given here is we have epsilon A and epsilon B. Those are the principal strains, and these strains are measured on a plane surface, on a free surface. So suppose you have a piece of paper and you have put strain gauges on that piece of paper along A direction, along B direction. So you are getting the strain values epsilon A and epsilon B. So and there is no distortion in the paper, so we are treating that as a principal strain system. So initially we have our block, so that element, initial undeformed element is shown here by that dashed red line, and under deformation epsilon A is 400, so there will be extension of this line. So that extended line is shown here, and epsilon B is negative, so along B axis there will be a reduction in size. So that reduction is given by this green color vertical line, and Poisson ratio is given as 0.30. You see that the angles are same, it's not changing, whatever, it's initially 90 degrees, so here also there is no change, we have 90 degrees. So on principal axis there will be no shear strain, so that's why the angles are not changing. So for this system, what is asked is, what we have to find the maximum in-plane shearing strain. Okay, so and we are also asked to find the true value of the maximum shearing strain. So what we will do, first thing we'll do is we'll have to draw the that axis epsilon theta gamma theta by 2 axis. So we draw that axis epsilon theta gamma theta by 2. Then we identify the coordinate for the maximum principal strain. So that coordinate is A. So it will be 400 microns. So 400 comma 0. This 400 microns comma 0. And for B it will be minus 50 microns. So we'll identify. So it is on the negative x-axis, negative epsilon theta axis. So it will be minus 50 comma 0. So then we'll this AB we'll find the midpoint. The midpoint is C. And with C we can calculate AC value or OC value. So to find the coordinate of C, it will be 400 minus 50 by 2. So it will be 350 by 2, which is 175. So the coordinate of C is 375 comma 0, 175 comma 0. Okay. So the radius will be CA or CB. So we can take 400 minus 175, which is 225, or 175 plus this value, which is 50, that is also 225. So the radius of the circle is 225. So with C as a center, we draw a circle passing through B and A, and the maximum will have the maximum shear strains occurring at D and E. So this value is gamma max by 2. The maximum shear, half of the maximum shear strain is the radius. So the maximum shear strain will be twice the radius, and that will be 450 microns. 450 microns. Yeah. So this is the maximum in-plane shearing strain, because here we are rotating about the outer about the z-axis here. So whatever shear strain we're getting, that is the maximum in-plane shearing strain. Now, what is this problem? This is a problem where the strains are recorded on the free surface. That means there are in-plane shear strains, and on the free surface there is no normal stress or no shear stress. That means sigma z is 0 and tau xz is 0, tau yz is 0. That means this is a plane stress condition. So we can draw the Morse circle for plane stress condition. So we can use the Hooke's law, and we can get the strain in the C direction, that is the z direction, like this. So we apply that formula, minus nu by 1 minus nu epsilon A plus epsilon B. So Poisson ratio is 0.3. So minus 0.3 by 1 minus 0.3, and epsilon A is 400 and epsilon B is minus 50. So 400 minus 50 is 350, and 3 by 7 times 350 is 150. So in the z direction, there is a contraction taking place, and that value of the strain, corresponding strain, is minus 150 mu. Mu means 10 power minus 6. So we can identify all the three principal strains: epsilon A, epsilon B, epsilon C. Epsilon A is 400, which is greater than epsilon B, which is minus 50, which is greater than epsilon C, which is minus 150. So with this information, we can draw the Morse circle. So we'll draw epsilon theta and sigma gamma theta by 2 here, and identify the coordinates of epsilon A, epsilon B, epsilon C on the epsilon theta axis. So we'll have A, which is corresponding to 400 comma 0, and B corresponds to minus 50 comma 0, and C corresponds to minus 150 comma 0. So if you join, we can draw a circle passing through A and B with AB as a diameter, and that will be the in-plane strains corresponding to the in-plane rotation about the z-axis. And we can draw the remaining two circles, which correspond to, for BC corresponds to rotation about the A-axis, and AC corresponds to rotation about the B-axis. So the maximum shear strain here is occurring in the out of plane direction, and the value is equal to the diameter AC. So it will be 400 plus 150. So it is 550 into 10 power minus 6. So that is the maximum shear strain occurring in the out of plane direction. That is a total maximum shear strain. It is greater than that in plane shear strain. So I'll take a small break and come back. We'll discuss about measurement of strains through using strain rosette. Okay, so we'll discuss about this measurement of strains using electrical strain gauge and measurement of the actual state of strain at a point using strain rosette. So here, suppose this is a rod and we have applied some forces on the rod. We can identify 2 points on this rod, and these points let's denoted by letters A and B, and these are the gauge points, and the initial length between them is L. Under the action of the loads, the distance between A and B will increase by a small amount delta. So the strain corresponding to this length AB will be delta by L. So to do the measurement, what we do is we have a small strain gauge fixed between points A and B. So the strain gauge is shown here. So what is the strain gauge? Here the green color, this is the wire. It's a very small, it's a very thin wire, and this wire is coiled like this between. Yeah, so this length is oriented. These wires are oriented along the AB direction, and so when the material is increasing in when the material expands, so these wires also will expand in length, and the diameter of the wires will shrink because there will be lateral contraction and diameter of the wires will shrink. So what we can do, we can pass a current through these wires. Okay, so these wires are like this, and uh, they're cemented by 2 pieces of paper and or some material, and we can pass current through these wires. And when this material expands, then the wires will expand, and there will be change in electrical resistance of these wires. So by measuring this change in electrical resistance, we can calculate the corresponding elongations or corresponding shortening. So first we have to do a calibration, and basing on that, whatever changes electrical resistance is there, we can calculate the corresponding strains. So this is the regarding this electrical strain gauge. So with this strain gauge, we can calculate the strains, that is the normal strain acting between point A and point B. Now we will discuss something called strain rosette. Suppose we have this uniform bar, and it is subjected to a set of loads in different directions. So on the surface of the bar, we identify a point O, and we want to find what is the strain acting at point O. So to do that, what we'll do at the point O, we'll draw 3 concurrent lines. So we draw 3 lines passing through point O. So there is line 1, L1, line L2, and line L3. So along these lines, so these lines are making an angle of, say, some arbitrary angles, say theta 1, theta 2, theta 3 with the x-axis. So on these lines, we stick those strain gauges, those electrical strain gauges. So this is one strain gauge, and we can measure the strain gauge. From this strain gauge, we can measure the strain acting along this line, which is epsilon 1. Similarly, we can stick another strain gauge along line L2, and we can measure the strain acting along that line, which we call it as epsilon 2. And similarly, we can stick the strain gauge along the line L3, this strain gauge, and we can calculate the corresponding strain, which is epsilon 3. So we are actually measuring the normal strains, that is a change in length with these 3 strain gauges oriented at rotations theta 1, theta at angles theta 1, theta 2, and theta 3. So we have one relation between epsilon of theta and epsilon x, epsilon y, and gamma xy. So that relation is given here. So epsilon of theta is epsilon x cos square theta plus epsilon y sin square theta plus gamma xy sin theta cos theta. So here for the strain gauge, which is oriented at an angle of theta 1, which is measuring the strain for a line oriented at an angle of theta 1, we have epsilon 1, which is epsilon x cos square theta 1 plus epsilon y sin square theta 1 plus gamma xy sin theta 1 cos theta 1. Similarly, for this strain gauge, we can measure epsilon 2. So epsilon 2 value is known. So that epsilon 2 value is equal to epsilon x cos square theta 2, epsilon y sin square theta 2 plus gamma xy sin theta 2 cos theta 2. Similarly, for this strain gauge 3, we can measure that epsilon 3 value, and we can use this relation. Epsilon 3 is epsilon x cos square theta 3 plus epsilon y sin square theta 3 plus gamma xy sin theta 3 cos theta 3. So here left hand side values are known. Epsilon 1, epsilon 2, epsilon 3 are known. And what are the unknowns? We have three unknowns: epsilon x, epsilon y, and gamma xy. So with these three equations, we can solve for those three unknowns and get the strain at point O, which is which is corresponding along this axis, okay? X-axis, y-axis, and the change in the xy axis, the change in angle of the xy axis. So we can get that epsilon x, epsilon y, and gamma xy. So this is the way the strain rosette. So this system, this arrangement of these strain gauges along three lines which is passing through the point O, that is the point at which we want to calculate the strains. This arrangement is called as strain rosette. So the choice of angles is our convenience. So you can have any choice, theta 1 or theta 2 and theta 3, as long as theta 1 should not be equal to theta 2, or theta 1 should not be, I think it should not be equal to theta 2 plus 180, I think. No, I think it's fine. If we have theta 2 as theta 1 plus 180, then again we'll have a problem. I think we should not have that like this. So so for arbitrary choice, we can have as long as both angles are not equal, we can measure the strain values, epsilon x, epsilon y, gamma x. So we have already seen the strain rosette. So there are different types of strain rosette. So here we have a strain rosette such that theta 1 here, so it is oriented like this. So one is along x-axis, one is along y-axis, and another one is along the bisector. That is the bisector of x and y-axis. So for this strain rosette, this strain rosette is called 45-degree rosette. So here for strain gauge 1, theta 1 will be 0 degrees. Strain gauge 2, theta 2, that is angle it makes with the x-axis is 45 degrees, and theta 3, that is angle it makes this strain gauge, this line makes with the x-axis is 90 degrees. So we can apply those three equations. So what will happen here? Epsilon 1 is epsilon x cos square theta 1 plus epsilon y sin square theta 1 plus gamma xy sin theta 1 cos theta 1. So for the first strain gauge, theta 1 is 0. So cos square theta 1 will be 1, sin square theta 1 will be 0. So and this term sin theta 1 is 0. So we'll be left with only epsilon x. So we are directly measuring the strain in the x direction, because as the line is oriented along x direction, you can directly measure it. If you can check it from the formula also. Similarly, for the y direction, we have cos theta 3 is 90 degrees, so cos 90 is 0. Here also cos 90 is 0 for gamma xy. So we are only left with epsilon y. So epsilon 3 will be equal to epsilon y. So we are actually measuring directly the strain in the y direction when you orient it in this way. And what is epsilon 2? So here theta 2 is 45. So cos square theta 2 is 1 by 2, sin square theta 2 is 1 by 2, gamma xy sin theta 2 cos theta 2. So 1 by root 2 times 1 by root 2, it will be again 1 by 2. So we have epsilon 2 is epsilon x plus epsilon y plus gamma xy by 2. So we have already measured epsilon x and epsilon y, which is epsilon 1 plus epsilon 2. So strain, shear strain gamma xy is 2 epsilon 2. So we send this 2 to the left hand side and send those epsilon x, epsilon y to the left hand side. So we get 2 epsilon 2 minus epsilon 1 plus epsilon 3. So this formula we had done in yesterday's class, I think during the derivation for the shear strain in the vice. So that is gamma xy is 2 epsilon b minus epsilon x plus epsilon a. So the strain measured along the OB direction, that is a bisector, twice that strain minus sum of the strains along x and y direction will give the shear strain. Okay. So difference of twice the strain along the bisector minus sum of the strains along x and y axis will give the shear strain. So this is a way to calculate the one of the way where we are here the angles are at 45 degrees. Okay, so this is a 45-degree strain rosette. We can have theta values which are separated by 60 degrees. So what will happen there? So here we have some component of a machine, and at point Q, which is lying along this axis, we are putting these strain gauges. So the three strain gauges are like this: one along line 1, another one at line 2, which is making 60 degree with the x-axis, another one making an angle of along line 3, which is making 60 degrees with the line 2. So this is a 60-degree rosette, and what is happening is we are measuring the strains along epsilon 1, epsilon 2, epsilon 3. So the values are 40 microns, 980 microns, and 330 microns. Micron is 10 power minus 6. So what are we asked to do? We are asked to find epsilon x, epsilon y, gamma xy. That is a strain at that location Q with that orientations x, y, and z orientations. And we are also asked to find the principal strain values and the maximum shearing strain. So for this strain rosette problem, for line 1 theta 1 is 0 degrees, and line 2 theta 2 is 60 degrees, and line 3 it will be 60 plus 60, which will be 120 degrees. So these are the angles which those lines are making with the x-axis, and we can apply that formula for we can get use those three equations and find epsilon x, epsilon y, and gamma xy. So first thing is cos theta 1 is 0, cos theta 1 for cos is cos 0, which is 1. So and remaining two values will go to 0. So we'll get directly the strain in the x direction. Epsilon 1 will be epsilon x. Similarly, for strain in along line 2, we have cos theta 2 is cos 60, and sin theta 2 is sin 60. So we'll have 1 by 4, 3 by 4, and gamma xy times 1 by 2 times root 3 by 2. And for strain in the for the third direction, we have epsilon 3 is cos square theta 3 and cos 120, sin 120, cos 120, sin 120. So again we have here 1 by 4, 3 by 4, cos 120 is minus 1 by 2, and sin 120 is root 3 by 2. So we have three equations, and we have to solve for epsilon x, epsilon y, and gamma xy. So first thing, we have already found the first equation, epsilon x is epsilon 1, and we can sum up these two equations, epsilon 2 plus epsilon 3, and this shear term will cancel out because of this minus of plus r. That term will cancel out, and we are left with epsilon x by 2 and 3 by 2 epsilon y. Okay, so that is what we have here. And what we can do here, we can calculate epsilon y, because epsilon x is known, it is epsilon 1 by 2. So we can send epsilon 1 by 2 to the left hand side. We get epsilon 2 plus epsilon 3 minus epsilon 1 by 2, and 3 by 2 will become, if we send to the left hand side, it will be 2 by 3. So that is what we have, 2 by 3 times epsilon 2 plus epsilon 3 minus epsilon 1 by 2. What we can do, this epsilon y, epsilon x values, we can substitute in the second equation, and we can find the shear strain. So epsilon 2 minus, so we can send the 4 term to the right hand side. So we'll have 4 epsilon 2 minus epsilon x minus 3 epsilon y, 5 root 3. Okay, so 1 by root 3, 4 epsilon 2 minus epsilon x minus 3 epsilon y by root 3. Okay, so epsilon 2 value, epsilon x value is known, which is epsilon 1, and 3 epsilon y. So 3 epsilon y means we multiply this equation with 3 epsilon y, we get 2 epsilon 2 plus 2 epsilon 3 minus epsilon 1. So minus 2 epsilon 2 minus 2 epsilon 3 plus epsilon 1. So if you do that, some terms will cancel out, epsilon 1 will cancel out, and we'll be left with 2 of epsilon 2 minus epsilon 3 by root 3. So we are finding, we are solving those three equations and getting epsilon x, epsilon y, and shear strain gamma xy. So let's look at those values. So the calculated values for epsilon x are 440 into 10 power minus 6. Epsilon y is 860 into 10 power minus 6, and shear strain it is 2 by root 3. Epsilon 2 is what? Epsilon 2 is 980 minus 330. Okay, so 980 minus 330 by 2 times 2 by root 3. So it will be 750 microns, or 750 to 10 power minus 6. So we can sketch the undefined shape. The undefined shape is shown here by the red dotted line, and the orientation, the initial length is 1 along x-axis and 1 along the y-axis. The initial angle between the two lines is 90 degrees. And after deformation, what will happen? The strain in the x direction is positive, so this length will increase. So that length increase is given by that. So we have the deformed shape, which is indicated with the green line, and the length along the x direction is increasing by 1 times epsilon x. So this is the increase in length along x direction, and there is also increase in the length in the y direction. So this length, increase in length is epsilon y times 1. So this is the increase in length, and shear strain is 750 microns. So that is a positive value. That means there is a decrease for the angle at the lower left corner. And what we'll do, we'll distribute the decrease. Half of it goes to the is associated with rotation for the OX side, and half of the rotation is rotated for the OY side. Okay, so half of gamma xy will go here in the clockwise anti-clockwise direction, and half of gamma xy is rotated in the clockwise direction for the vertical line. Okay, so we can then find the coordinates for epsilon theta and gamma theta by 2. We want to draw the Morse circle so that we can get all the principal strains and orientations of the principal axis. So first thing we'll do for the OX, we have to find the epsilon theta and gamma theta by 2. So here OX, epsilon theta is known, epsilon x, that is 40. And what is happening here? The change in angle is in the anti-clockwise direction. So we treat gamma xy by 2 as positive. So we'll have plus 750 by 2. And for this OY, the strain epsilon theta is epsilon y, which is 860. And here the rotation is in the clockwise direction. So the shear strain gamma xy by 2 will be with a negative sign. So it will be minus 750 by 2. So minus 750 by 2 is 375. So we'll draw the Morse circle. First we'll draw the epsilon theta axis and gamma theta by 2 axis in the downward direction. And we identify the coordinates of x and y, of OX and y. So OX is 40 and 70 plus 375. So we'll move 40 units to the right and 375 units to the in the downward direction. And OY is 860 minus 375. So we move 860 units to the right and 375 units in the upward direction. So we get the point x and y. So we join those 2 points x and y. They will intersect at point C. We can find the coordinate of point C. It will be 860 plus 40 by 2. So it will be 900 by 2. It is 450 comma 0. So the coordinate is 450 comma 0. And we can find the radius. So 450 minus 40 plus 375 square. So 410 square plus 375, which is 556. So we can draw a circle passing through those with C as a center and passing through points x and y. So this circle will intersect at A, the epsilon theta at A and B, and we can find the coordinates of A and B to get the principal strains. So to get the principal strains, yeah. So we know OC value, which is 450, and CA is the radius, which is 556. So we get OA as OC plus CA, which is 450 plus 556, which is 1006 into 10 power minus 6. And OB will be OC minus CB, so 450 minus 556, and it will be minus 106 into 10 power minus 6. So we want to know how the lines are oriented with respect to the initial lines. The principal axis. We want to know where the principal axis, what is the orientation of those principal axis. So first we'll look at point B. It looks easier because it is closer to this CX line. So if you want to go to point B, we have to move along the arc by an angle of 2 theta B. So this 2 theta B we have to calculate. So from x we draw a normal to the epsilon theta axis. So that normal is x cube. So we can calculate tan 2 theta B as x cube by CQ. So xq is the x coordinate of y coordinate of that is this length, which is 375, and CQ is 450 minus 40. So we'll get 410. This length is 410. So 375 by 410 is tan 2 theta B. So this value, if you take the inverse, you'll get that angle, which is 42.4 degrees. And this degree is rotation indicates rotation in the clockwise direction. So half of the angle is 21.2 degrees. So what we'll do, we'll first draw the x-axis, and we'll rotate by 21.2 degrees. That is theta B, and we draw a line, and that line corresponds to the principal axis B. And if you draw a line perpendicular to this principal axis B, we'll get another line that is corresponds to principal axis A. So what is the significance here? If you have a undefined shape, which is indicated by the dotted red line, that is a square of side length 1, and we have that principal strain values epsilon A 1006 into 10 power minus 6 and epsilon B minus 106 into 10 power minus 6. So what will happen is, in the A direction there is a positive value, so there will be an increase in length in the A direction, expansion in the A direction, and in the B direction the square will shrink, so there is a contraction, and so this is the final deformed shape, which is indicated by that green color. So along A there is that is this direction, there is an increase in length. Along B there is a shrinking in length. Okay. So this is the physical significance of what is happening, and you see that there is no change in angles anywhere. All the angles, like any difference between the angles are same. That is, whatever 90 degrees are there, it is same angle is present. 90 degrees is present. There is no shear strain occurring here on this along these lines. That is, there is no relative rotation happening here. Okay, so we can also find the maximum shearing strengths. To do that, first we have to see that we are working on a free surface, so sigma z on the free surface is 0. Also tau xg and tau yz are 0. So this again corresponds to the plane stress scenario. Why this corresponds to plane stress? So here, this is a free surface. There is no force acting on that in the outer plane in the z direction. So sigma z and tau yz, tau z x are 0. Okay. Sorry, sigma z, tau zx and tau zy are 0. Okay, so this is a plane stress scenario. So because it's a plane stress scenario, we can use our Hooke's law and find the strain in the z direction, epsilon c, and that is minus nu by 1 minus nu, sum of the epsilon a plus epsilon b. So we already found that principal strains, epsilon a and epsilon b, which is 1006 minus 106. Poisson ratio is 0.29. So we can get the strain in the z direction. It is minus 368 into 10 power minus 6. So we can draw that Mohr circle for these three strains: epsilon a 1006, epsilon b minus 106, epsilon c minus 368. So this is the inequality, and we can identify those three values corresponding coordinates c, p, and a on the epsilon theta axis. So this is 1006 comma 0, this is minus 106 comma 0, and this is minus 368 comma 0. So we can draw a circle connecting A and B with AB as the diameter, and then draw another two circles with BC as diameter and AC as diameter. So the maximum shear strain occurs for the circle with AC as diameter, and that maximum shear strain is equal to say epsilon A minus epsilon C. So that is 1006 minus 368 minus of minus will become plus, it will be 1375. So it is again occurring in the out of plane. The maximum shear stress is occurring out of plane direction. So this is the usage of Mohr circuit and the usage of strain rosette to determine the strains. All the three components of strains, all the principal strains and the maximum shearing strain. Okay, so we'll end the class now. So in this class we have discussed about these two things.